Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on this podcast, like we tend to. Her name is Michelle Whittaker, and she is with Ranked Choice Voting Maryland. So welcome to the podcast, Michelle.
Thank you, Andrew. Really glad to be on the podcast.
We are looking forward to hearing you talk about your cause and your organization. If we could get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself.
Yes. So, as you stated, I'm Michelle Whittaker. I'm the Executive Director for Ranked Choice Voting Maryland. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization in Maryland. We've been around for about 2 years as a nonprofit, but as a coalition of advocates and good government organizations, we've been in existence for 7 years. And my background, I'm a communications strategist and community leader. I've been involved with both political campaigns, advocacy campaigns, and have really focused my time over the last decade on what policies and reforms can help give people more of a voice in what's happening in their local government or in different government institutions, and how to make sure that we have stronger participation among groups and individuals that have typically been left out of the decision-making process. So really excited to share more with your audience.
Great. It's interesting you mentioned your background, your professional background, because that sounds like a perfect fit for what you're doing in your job. It sounds like being a specialist in communication is something you'll use every day in your position as executive director.
Yes, it is something that I do use quite regularly to help communicate with our supporters in the state, with elected leaders. But it is also really useful in helping to break down what we're talking about in ways that are more conversational and less wonky. That's one of the biggest things that I like to do, is just figure out how, like, if you're having a conversation with a friend, over, some nice drinks or having a dinner, how would you talk to a friend about these policy issues or reforms versus, the more wonky speak that is easy to get into sometimes when you're talking about reforms that do require knowledge about, complex systems, whether you're talking about elections or, structures of different parts of government. So it's something that I have, I'm really glad I have that background, because it helps me when I'm working with different folks in our coalition. But it is also something that gives me a reminder of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to reach people and make what we're doing accessible. And I also like to share, some folks have asked in the past, did I, always want to, be kind of in this role working on an election reform. And I really kind of entered this space because of interest in being able to say yes to new things that I wasn't totally sure where I fit in and how I would do it, but I had passion about what was going on and wanted to learn more and get more involved. And I'm really glad that I've been able to take those opportunities and take kind of those leaps of faith to move forward in different ways in the work that I do. So.
Sure. Before we talk about RCV, Ranked Choice Voting specifically, would you please tell our audience what your job as executive director entails? A lot of our members are movers and shakers, and they want to get involved in organizations, so maybe they'll be applying to executive director positions of nonprofits, of election reform organizations. So please tell us what your responsibilities are.
Well, there's a wide variety of responsibilities for an executive director, and especially working on reform issues where the organizations and the budgets may be a little small, but the work and the needs can be very great in terms of what you need to accomplish to be able to be successful in the work. And my responsibilities vary from planning out what we're doing in a week or a month of just how we're engaging our volunteers, what events we have coming up, how we're, planning meetings with elected officials or community leaders, to planning budgets and working and collaborating with funders and potential grantors on like where we want to go, what our vision is, and what opportunities grantees or grantors have to fund the work that we're doing. So it can vary a lot, and in some cases, like where we have our state legislative session coming up in just next month in January, the start of the new year, and so part of my time will be spent at our state capitol engaging with state leaders on bills related to ranked choice voting, but I'll also be working with local leaders across the state on, moving different initiatives forward or having discussions with them about the work that they're interested in doing. So a lot of it is also just relationship building and staying connected with people all over. And so it takes a lot of different skills, but the biggest part is just having a strong passion and a heart for doing the work that you want to do as an executive director, and figuring out what the opportunities are for you to use the skills you have and hopefully build some new skills along the way.
Great. So you said the organization started a couple of years ago. So did you found the organization with the people and then you became executive director that way, or did you apply to be executive director and then jump in that way, or did you start in another position and you became an executive director later?
So the coalition, the Ranked Choice Voting Maryland Coalition, started back in 2018, and I was part of the group of individuals who, started the initial coalition, brought people together, and helped organize. I was a volunteer statewide coordinator when we first started as an organization. So we were very grassroots based and focused on just like how do we move things forward and leveraging relationships that we have with other existing organizations, whether it was like the League of Women Voters, Common Cause Maryland, Represent Women, other groups that were either national or state partners for us. The group formed its 501c3 2 years ago, and when after they formed that, the board invited me to be the founding director for the organization because of my background and involvement with the organization from the start. So that's how I got started in it. And I've been involved with the coalition, since its inception. So this is kind of just a really, full circle moment from the first time that I started with it, where I wasn't sure what kind of, if this would stand up as its own organization or how it would be involved. To really, I'm really excited that this is what I get to do full time for my work, and getting to go around all over the state and talk to people. So. Yes.
So the organization was an association that it formed in 2018, and then it incorporated in 2018, and then incorporated in 2 years ago, you said, right?
Yeah, in 2003, I believe it did. It's the incorporation. So yeah.
Okay, great. So our audience is interested in reforms. A lot of them are involved in alternative parties as well as non-partisan organizations like yours. So many of them are indeed familiar with ranked choice voting. So some of them may not be. We may have some new people, and some people may not know. So could you please start by describing what it is and the definition of it?
Yep. So ranked choice voting is a method for voters to vote with their preferences. Instead of being limited to just marking one candidate as your choice, you have the ability to rank your candidate. So this comes into play particularly when you have competitive, contested races, whether it's a primary or general election, and you have more than two candidates running, especially when you have, multiple candidates, 5, 6, however many, but as little as 3. Like if there's candidates running, and let's just say that there might be, 2 candidates that you prefer, there's a way now with ranked choice voting for you to indicate your preferences and say, this candidate is my top choice and here's my backup choice. And the other thing it does give is the freedom in terms of how you make your choices, because you still have the ability to rank as few candidates or as many candidates as you like. So if there's really only one choice, you can just say, like, that's my choice and I'm ranking this candidate as my top choice. But what we really tell voters is that the power with ranked choice voting is being able to say, here's my top choice and here are my backups in case there's not someone who comes out as a clear winner in the race.
Right.
And it ensures that you have majority winner in single winner races, so when you're electing a mayor or a governor or even president. And then it allows for fair representation, so for multiple different communities of interest to be able to win a seat at the table and have representation when you use it for multi-seat elections like at-large seats or a multi-member district that might exist. So it's a really flexible voting method that ensures that voters are centered in terms of what they want, what they are seeking, who they are seeking to represent them. And that's why I'm really passionate about it. And it's a reform that has been steadily growing and expanding across the United States. But it's been used in the United States for over 100 years. The longest use we have is in, or close to 100 years, sorry. The longest use that we have is in Massachusetts, where they've been using it since 1941, I believe is the year.
Wow.
And we have other places that, in the early 2000s, that's when we had a really kind of growth of the use of ranked choice voting in the San Francisco Bay Area, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Portland, Maine, and other places that started adopting it for local city elections. And since then, we've really seen an additional growth and expansion over the last 5 years, where we've seen New York City adopt it, Maine adopt it for statewide elections, as well as Alaska adopting it for statewide elections. So there are now over 50 jurisdictions that are using ranked choice voting. That's over 14 million voters who have the power to rank their choices.
Great. So since you're mentioning that a bunch of these cities are using ranked choice voting, do you think it's best to go as a strategy city by city, or do you think it's good to go as a statewide constitutional amendment? Or is there another way that's better yet?
So the answer is really it's contextual. So it depends on what the structure of your local offices are, local jurisdictions, cities, counties, whatever they may be, as well as the state structure. So in some cases, a statewide option might be the best route to go. In other places, it might be more flexible to start with cities and other localities if they have the ability to move more quickly than a statewide initiative would work. And so that's what we've seen in different places. While, statewide adoption is great and you want to give as many people, and I'm one of those advocates, I want to give as many people the ability to fully express their choices in their elections. The way that you can build a strong case is through the adoption by cities and counties and other jurisdictions. And so that's partially what we're doing here in Maryland, where we have Tacoma Park that's been using ranked choice voting since 2007. And we have, this year, we're really excited that Greenbelt, in their November election, Greenbelt voters voted overwhelmingly to move the city towards ranked choice voting. And so we'll be working in Greenbelt over the next 2 years on implementation for the city to use it in their next election. And we know that that has a ripple effect for other cities that are looking at it, as well as counties, where counties have to go through a process in the state of Maryland through the state General Assembly in order to make changes to their elections. But our cities have the flexibility to make changes on their own. And so that's where I say that it's really contextual, because other states have different kind of rules of how how cities can change their elections and other jurisdictions. And so you really need to understand the context of your area, of your community, and what is what can work best. And then the other piece is building the groundswell support. And this is always key in terms of getting people to be familiar and know why this is an issue, and maybe sometimes they haven't thought about it. There's a lot of situations where you look at what your elections, or most people, like, they go through the process of the elections, they're not necessarily thinking of in that process of, voting for their mayoral election or for even a presidential primary about, like, what's the mechanisms, like, what's the system of voting that we're using. They're really, like, at that moment, like, okay, I'm electing somebody as governor of my state. Here, this is the person that I want to win that seat. But what we do have an opportunity, especially after the election, is to reflect on, like, does the system actually work for us? And that's where, when people see non-majority winners in races, when they see that it feels like a lot of people are splitting their vote and the outcome doesn't really reflect the will of the people, that's when people look at and say, hey, is there another way that we can do this that can better work for voters? And ranked choice voting is one of those alternatives, in the sense of, like, what moving away from the status quo and what we've had in place in many jurisdictions, which is the current system is called first past the post. Moving away from that to a system like ranked choice voting, where you're getting majority winners, you're having fair representation, voters have more power in their elections. It's something that opens people's eyes up to say, like, oh, there's something else that's possible, and it can be successful in terms of giving voters that power to really have representation that matters for them.
All right. So since you're working with these municipalities and other governmental entities, how do you get your foot in the door with them? How do you get their attention so that you can work with them?
So it goes back to relationships. When I am working to, build the coalition, or to work with a legislator on introducing a bill for the reform, it starts with the relationships and knowing who they are and what their interests are. And so that's the first part, like, where are the shared goals, the shared interests, talking about that, and then being there in support for what they're doing. So it's something where I'm often spending time, learning what their other interests or priorities are, and especially knowing if I'm working in a coalition that is very diverse, there might be opportunities to share the other work, even if that's not something directly we're doing, but just share that so that other people know what's going on and can be part of that process. So it's really about building relationships, building trust, building a stronger support system, and that's how it starts to, like, get in the door. And then it's really about having conversations and demonstrating how it works. That's been kind of the number one thing that really helps people have an aha moment with ranked choice voting, and particularly with any election reform that is something where they're going beyond just, like, what their knowledge of how elections work. You're really showing, like, where there is a transformation that's possible. And I love it when we're doing a social gathering and we rank our appetizers or the beverages, and we then show the process of how we tallied everything. People get really excited and they see how it works and they're like, oh, that's really cool. And we've done that a lot of different times.
Okay, sounds good. So one thing I hear about with election reforms, particularly voting reforms, is sometimes they need to change things. The governmental entities that are doing the voting, they might, like some people say, it's software or the ballots. So what do you think needs to be changed if they're going to transition from first past the post to ranked choice voting?
Again, it can be contextual to the jurisdiction and what equipment they use. we're fortunate in the United States that we have this great national nonprofit called the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, RCV, and they are an organization that is geared towards election administration and understanding how and what are the best practices for implementing and using ranked choice voting for elections. And so I really rely on them to be able to have a good analysis and starting the framework of what needs to be changed. And they have provided guidance on that for all of the states. So they have done an analysis across the U.S. of what type of equipment is used in different jurisdictions, different states, and, what are the capabilities of the equipment. So for Maryland, we use our current election vendor is ES&S, and they are RCV compatible, and the State Board of Elections administrator recently said earlier this year that, with the current voting equipment that the state has, we're able to create ranked ballots, to scan the ranked ballot data, and to store the ranked ballot data with our voting equipment. What we're not capable of doing right now with our equipment is doing the full tabulation. However, the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center does have a free tool called RC Tab, which is a open source tabulation software that is certified federally and used by other jurisdictions that allows you to be able to do the full tabulation based on any of the rules that exist for your specific jurisdiction. So it's a very flexible tool that can be added. So even though our current system in Maryland can't do the tabulation, we have this resource that we can add into it to make sure that to have the full capabilities that we need for elections. But that's the evaluation that you have to do at the state level as well as at the city level. And in Maryland, for example, it depends on the city. They may either they may run their elections through a hand count if they're a very small city and they feel that that's the best way for them to do it. They may use the state's election equipment, or they may have their own election vendor, and in which case you need to just verify whether or not the election vendor system supports ranked choice voting. And so we do that work with the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center to make sure that we know what we need to do in order to move that step forward, along with talking about the other things that you need to do, like voter education and how you update procedures and, what does a ballot look like? What does change in the ballot look like when you move to ranked choice voting? All of those things you can kind of work on and develop and have a good roadmap for how you implement ranked choice voting at any level. And I want to just say again, I'm really grateful for the work that the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center does to provide that to not only organizations like myself, but they also work with election administrators and jurisdictions across the country to assist with their implementation of ranked choice voting. And again, that gives election administrators who often have a lot of responsibilities, and there's many different facets to the election process that they're working on. It helps them to be able to do their job well, knowing that they have a resource that and people who understand the work that they're doing and are there supporting them. So it's a really great tool and resource that we have with them. And then the other piece is just working again in community to do good outreach and education with voters on what changes are coming to the ballot and how they can be more empowered with a ranked ballot for their future elections.
So how do you reach the community then? What's your strategy for reaching them so you can do the education?
Yeah, as a former campaign manager, there's nothing like going to the door and being out in the community. And so we did that in Greenbelt. We were knocking doors regularly ahead of the ballot question and ahead of Election Day to be there and talking to people. And as we've been building up support across the state, we've been attending and tabling at community events, state fairs, wherever people are interested and welcoming for us to have a conversation, we'll be there and have a conversation with folks. So it really is kind of being on the ground and meeting people where they are. That is a key part of this, and we do that in a variety of ways. We host our own events as well, so we actually have some events that we're planning in the new year because we have done what's called Ranked Choice Voting Day, RCV Day, which happens on January 23rd, which is kind of goes back to like our talking about how ranking works, which is ranking your choices 1, 2, 3, and January 23rd is 1, 2, 3. So we do a fun little events on those days, just social events to demonstrate how ranked choice voting works, give people an opportunity to talk to others about what's possible in their local elections, and maybe if there's any state or other initiatives that are happening, what other ways that they can get involved. And it's been a really great tool for us to build up our volunteer base, to build support for legislation in different areas. And so, you can't beat being on the ground and being close to people as the way to connect with folks, because that's how you know more about what their community is, what their interests are, and why, connecting the why of what they are interested in to the why of why we need to change our election system and why ranked choice voting is the right change to make. So it's a lot of on the ground work.
So since you said that you used to be in campaigns, it's a lot like running a campaign then.
There's elements to it, yeah. Especially when you have you're doing a ballot initiative, there's elements to that. If you have legislation that's going to be before a legislative body, that's where you're also kind of getting into a campaign mode, if you will. You're trying to make sure that you turn people out to be able to show support, to encourage elected leaders to vote yes for this, or, if it's a ballot campaign, to, talk to voters and hopefully get their support to vote yes on the initiative on the ballot. So it's an element of it, because the most effective way that legislators kind of see and identify that this is a priority and this matters is by seeing people who are texting, calling, emailing, or showing up to public hearings and saying that they want this, or what they want to have happen. And that has a definite impact. And I, as someone who's also worked in local government and county government in Montgomery County, I know that it makes a difference, because when I was in a role where working as a staff member for a council member, it mattered to see who was coming out and who was speaking on issues, to hear their voices, and in some cases to maybe for the first time hear from somebody who we don't typically hear from was something that could be really moving and a motivating factor to understand the issue better than before. And that's why I really do encourage a lot of people to take the time to know what local government is when they meet, and attend meetings. And if there's opportunities to speak up or to sign up to testify on behalf of something, to take that opportunity. And I recognize that, and I am like this too. I get nervous when I speak in public, but there's a lot that, it can be nervous. You might be on TV, all that sort of stuff is going on, right? Or it's being broadcast on the local cable station. But the bigger thing is that if you're hopefully working within a coalition, and this is what we try to do with our volunteers, is give them support in terms of helping them, with what they want to say if they're not sure, making sure that they write down some comments to help them with their timing, especially if there's a limited amount of time to give testimony, and just encouraging people and getting a bunch of people to do it together helps people see oh, I'm not doing this alone, and helps them feel a little bit better about doing it. I know it helps me to know that if there's other people who are also there and supporting the issue who have my back in a way. So I love doing that, and I really do encourage people to be able to do that and build that skill, because oftentimes legislators may not hear from different voices, and if they aren't hearing from you and you have a really important perspective or a new perspective that they haven't heard before, they're missing out on that opportunity to use that to inform them on the policy making choices that they're doing. So that's why I encourage people to participate in local government, because that's how you make sure that people are aware of the impacts of different policies or why we need to change something, because sometimes they're just not aware of the different impacts for different communities.
Great, great. So how can our audience support Ranked Choice Voting Maryland?
Well, I hope that your audience is excited about the opportunities to move ranked choice voting forward at all levels of government, and we would love for folks to come and join us for our events that we have coming up in the new year. Tomorrow evening, we're December 10th. We have a all volunteer call where we're just setting up the vision for what we have for the new year and celebrating the wins that we had in 2025. But we're really excited not only for Ranked Choice Voting Day, but for the opportunity to engage with our cities. So if you visit our website, rcvmd.org, you can find out what upcoming activities will be happening. We're updating the site for our new legislative work for 2026. So you'll see some new information on the page on the website soon. But if you also want to just support our work, we always welcome those who want to give financial support or volunteer with us and help to do events anywhere in the state. So please reach out to us, and there's contact information on our website as well to reach out to us so that we can figure out how we can work together and collaborate, because that's what we love to do and work with different partners.
Great. Awesome. Michelle, thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking about the exciting things your organization is doing.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for the work that you're doing to just get the word out to different people and to help raise the voices of folks who are in alternative parties and working to expand democracy and the representation across our country.
We wish you all the best in your personal, professional endeavors and everything else you do in life.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.